And we're interrupting this edition of Sever My Genitals with the following news flash. Thank you, mein Führer. Buckingham Palace have just announced that the Queen is becoming suspiciously smooth. A spokesman said that Her Majesty's face is now completely wrinkle-free, and that she has lost the turkey waddle of skin around her jowls. The spokesman was then shot by Tintin, the famous cartoon character, but that is of course completely irrelevant. In the studio now we have our royal correspondent Jim Lungs. Respect, Jim.
Respect is due.
So tell me, Jim, what else can you tell us about this thing that we're telling everyone about?
Well, the Queen's abrupt smoothness started to occur about an hour ago, according to the palace, and I was eating a whole roast horse at that time, IIRC. The smoothness continued during the next 60 minutes, over which time I also ate some fried dust and cactus jelly.
And with her becoming smoother, I expect she now looks younger?
Yes, she now looks rather like she was in her late 20s, and when I was in my late 20s I was quite partial to a main course of Teflon with camel fat for pudding.
And with her younger looks, do you think anyone will be tempted to penetrate her? In that way.
Yes, I understood what you meant. I doubt it myself. I think the guards certainly wouldn't allow it.
And I'll have to stop this conversation, Jim, because we've just received word from the palace that the Queen is continuing to get even smoother. A new spokesman is now saying that the Queen has now lost even natural wrinkles like the lines on her palm and also the lines on her knuckles. And on top of that, the smoothness is now affecting the appearance of various bodily features, with her nose becoming some sort of small nub, her teeth are apparently like half circles, and her nipples have now gone entirely. And it also seems that that spokesman has just been shot as well by Captain Haddock, the famous cartoon character, but that is, of course, entirely irrelevant.
Entirely irrelevant.
So, Jim, appalling news.
Yes, it really is quite appalling and just makes you want to rip off all your clothes and jump screaming through a window.
And I expect that if this rate of smoothness continues, with bodily features removing themselves, we'll eventually be looking at a monarch that is basically some kind of fleshy ball.
Well, yes, that is what we are looking at, and I'm also looking at some Shamborsi strawberry hippopotamus.
In the event of a ball monarch, would there be any constitutional crisis?
Well, yes, Prince Charles would have to take the throne, I'd have to eat a small handbell, and all television channels will be forced to broadcast the same episode of Dad's Army for 3 days as a gesture of respect.
And do you think that if she did become a ball, any penetration would be attempted by, say, lonely members of palace staff?
Well, as I said earlier, I don't think the guards would let such a thing happen, and I think the Duke of Edinburgh would have some very stern words to say.
And I'm having to silence this conversation again, I'm afraid, Jim, as it turns out that the Queen has actually split open, and a load of tiny cardboard boxes about 1 square inch big have fallen out. A spokesman for the palace claims the tiny boxes smell of wet soil, and yes, that spokesman has just been shot by the cartoon dog Snowy, which is of course entirely irrelevant.
Entirely.
So, Jim, where do we all go from here?
Well, I think that what will happen now is that I'll have a plate of haddock and chips, and Prince Charles will fight a World War I Zeppelin, and all television channels will have to broadcast 2 pints of lager for 3 days instead.
And of course, the question that's on everyone's minds, will any penetration of the tiny cardboard boxes occur by angry, frustrated members of palace staff?
Well, it would be rather difficult, really.
Yes, it would. Well, thank you, Jim, and Africa Bambata.
Africa Bambata to you too.
And we take you now to an audio-only simulcast of that episode where Gaz donates to a sperm bank.